Hi there and good morning. It's time for Meals with Melissa. So I have something great for you this morning. You know, I know we've been doing a lot of more dessert-oriented options. So today we're gonna do something that's more power packed with protein. And of course, I love eggs. Now, I've had clients that don't like eggs, which I feel sad for them because eggs are awesome. They're a complete protein. Your body uses it fully. It's a great option. So we're gonna make something super easy, super quick, and really portable as well. We're gonna make actual muffin size. We're gonna use a muffin tin, but you could also actually have like a little tart tin that you could make some mini ones and have like a little snack bites, okay? All right, so let me get everything up and moving here. It's been kind of a crazy morning. We're doing a baby shower later today, so I've got craziness at my house. All right, so super simple. First thing you're going to do, obviously turn on the oven to 350 to let it preheat. I'm also going to spray my pan just to make sure that those little buggers don't stick. So super fast, you know, we just use some regular canola pan spray. Of course, I'm not a fan of anything processed, but sometimes you got to make some concessions here because you got to be able to use some things and you don't want it to stick, right? I guess you technically use coconut oil. Just remember that when you're using certain oils, it is going to add some calories and some fats to your macros. Not necessarily a bad thing. Again, you know, a lot of what I like to do on here is low carb because spiking insulin is why we gain weight. So, okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do about 5 ounces of tuna. Now I'm just using canned. I'm actually using the white albacore. I know it's a little more expensive, but I kind of like it better than just the cheap regular tuna. Now, if you're not a fan of fish, not a fan of tuna, you can also use a little bit of like, you know, the diced ham. Also not a fan of processed meat, but again, here and there, I gotta make some concessions, and it's still better than some of the, well, most of the processed food that we get at the store that's in canned boxes and frozen section. So I am gonna use a little bit of the tuna. I've drained it, really got most of the moisture out so that it isn't too, you know, liquidy in the pan. And then I'm gonna add a couple of different things here. Just looking for some stuff. See, that's me in my kitchen, right? I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of mayo. Now I'm using light mayo. Again, it really depends on your macros. Light doesn't necessarily always make it better. It just means that it usually has, well, you know, it depends on the product. Sometimes light just means it's lighter in color, believe it or not. I know, gimmicks, right? So I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of mayo. Now again, you know, if you're doing low carb, you actually need the fats, so don't be freaking out over adding some fat to your recipes. And of course, you know, I am still not a fan of keto. I've done it myself. Not a fan of it. I don't believe that it's important to cut out carbs completely. I think it's important to cut out the crap. And yes, there is a difference. The more that you can cut out processed food and sugar, the better off you're going to be. So keep that in mind. And I know we all want those loopholes that work differently. That's just not how it rolls. You know, there is no protein cookie that's really good for you. Just saying. Okay, so 1/4 cup of mayo. I'm also going to add a 1/4 cup of sour cream. Again, you can choose to use low fat. I'm using the full fat version at this point just because I just am. Okay, so using a little bit of sour cream. I'm gonna mix this in. Okay, throw that in there. I'm also going to add 2 large eggs. Okay, so you can see that there's not as many eggs as there is some of the other components, but that's okay. So, you know, one of the interesting things about keto is that a lot of people believe that it just needs to be low carb, that there's, you know, no other balance that needs to happen. However, if you are truly on keto, one of the things to remember, grabbing a paper towel here, is that you still have to get in your calories. You know, low calorie does not work. It has been proven over and over. The research and the science shows that going low calorie, all it does is it lowers your metabolism to meet that. So you still have to fulfill those calories in other ways. So if you are doing full-on keto, you need to make sure that you're getting the calories through fats. You're actually higher fat and moderate protein. So keep that in mind. Okay, now I'm actually gonna mix my eggs first, just because it's easier to kind of mix them and scramble them in a container before I throw it in with the big container with the rest of my ingredients. So I'm gonna grab a fork, mix that up real quick. Yeah, it took me all of about 10 minutes to make these this morning, and then threw them in the oven, and of course then I test everything on my family, which is super fun. Okay, so I'm throwing the eggs in there. I'm also going to use, it calls for 1.5 cups of shredded cheese. I'm gonna use approximately a cup, just because that's what I had on hand. Now, just a quick tip for you. You know, again, if you're trying to kind of avoid quite the amount of fat in there, you could use egg whites instead of full eggs. You could also use more of a harder cheese like Parmesan. It does contain less fat. Personally, I like cheddar, so that's what's going in. Okay, I'm also going to add a little bit of salt to my mixture just to give it some seasoning. Now, I have a ton of clients that freak out over salt. Here's the deal on salt. You might as well know from the beginning. If you are eating the American diet, if you're eating a lot of processed food or fast food, you are going to get a ton of sodium because, again, that's how they balance out the other options. The problem with the American diet is that we get a ton of salt, a ton of fat, and a ton of sugar, and that three combination makes us, number one, overeat, but it also leads to a lot of things like hypertension and weight gain. So keep in mind that if you are eating the American diet, that's when, you know, they talk about limiting your sodium. It's important. However, if you are eating extremely clean, if you're eating primarily whole foods, lots of vegetables, fruits, things like that, you actually need to add sodium to your diet because your electrolyte balance or the balance of hydration in your body is a combination of magnesium, potassium, sodium, and water. So again, it's not that we're not getting enough of water or we're getting too much sodium, it's that our balance gets off. So if you're eating super clean, you actually need to make sure that you do get some sodium so that your balance isn't off. So I know that that's kind of an interesting concept. Again, it's not one that we talk about frequently. I just want to make sure that everybody knows the truth. Okay, so I'm going to add just a little bit of fresh parsley. One of the great things about the store that I didn't even realize is if you go to the produce section, you can usually find a lot of fresh herbs. So you can grab things like oregano. I grabbed parsley this morning. Makes it super simple, just chopped it up a little bit. I'm gonna throw a little bit of that in there. Now it's not gonna give it a ton of flavor, but it does give it some color, makes, you know, give some visual interest to it, which isn't a bad thing. Gonna add my salt. Now, of course, that's to taste. Again, we don't use a whole lot of, we just don't do a whole lot of processed food in my house. Now that it's the holidays, we have been doing a little extra more than normal. That's just kind of, you know, how we roll at our house. Okay, so I'm gonna mix that up. That's everything in there. Just double checking my recipe. All right, so I'm gonna throw this in. I'm just gonna grab a spoon. I'm gonna throw it in the tin and then I'm gonna cook it for about 25 minutes. And I'll show you in a second what that's gonna turn out like. Now this particular recipe makes about 6 full-size muffins. So if you're using a regular muffin tin, that's where we're coming from. I'm going to guess that I can keep these in the refrigerator for a few days and they'll still taste really, really decent. So if you need to make some things in advance and take them with you to work so that you can have breakfast at work, which I know a lot of people do, it should work out just fine. You might need to reheat it for just a couple of seconds in the microwave. Just make sure that you do reheat it on a, not a plastic container. Make sure that you're using glass for that. You know, all that information has come out about the BPAs and the toxins that can come out of our containers. So most of the time when I'm traveling and I'm eating food out of containers because I do food prep, honestly, I just eat it cold because I don't care. I know that sounds weird, but that's just kind of, that's about 6, 7, 8 years of food prep and I'm pretty used to it. Plus, it can eat it a little bit faster, not gonna lie. All right, so I'm gonna throw these in the oven and cook them for about 25 minutes. Works out perfect. They're gonna be kind of bubbly when they're done. And I'll show you in just a sec how that's going to look. So here they are in my pan. All right, and here are the ones that I pulled out a little bit earlier. So they look great. They do sink just a little bit as they cool off and the air kind of sinks out of them. And for a knife here. Okay, so, you know, perfect size to just kind of take it with you, get something extra to eat. Again, you know, I'm looking for easy. I don't have time for complicated. I don't have time. The most complicated thing I've made in a long time were the cinnamon rolls from last week. So there you go. They look great, easy to eat, and you can take them with you at any time. So have an incredible week, you guys. I have lots going on. I know it's the holidays. You guys, here's the deal. Please be kind to each other. I am absolutely floored at how rude and obnoxious people have been. I drove home from Spokane the other day and got flipped off like 3 times and I hadn't done a dang thing. So you know what, be kind to each other. It's the holiday season. It's a time for giving and being kind and loving each other. So be good to each other, guys. Have a good one.